Hello and welcome to Lost Within Lost, the podcast where we are re-rewatching the 10 highest rated episodes of Lost. My name is Dan and my controversial Lost opinion is that The Constant, while an entertaining piece of television, is not even in the top 10 of Lost episodes. Put that in your pipe and smoke monster it.
Hello, my name is Chris, and Dan, I'm going to need to see that list. Yes, hello again, and welcome to Lost Within Lost, the podcast where we rewatch, recap, and review the 10 highest episodes of Lost. This week is all about the number 5, because we will be discussing the 5th highest rated episode of Lost, and that is Aeterno from season 6. Plus, Dan and I will continue nominating our very own top 10. You'll hear what our number 5s are from our very own lists.
Yes.
Now, Dan, I am a little bit anxious this week, right? Last week, we both had The End as our number 6.
Yes.
And I'm, with only 5 episodes to go, 5 more entries in our list, I'm worried that again today we are going to have the same episode, right? So let me explain. If the listeners have been paying attention,
which I'm sure they have been,
absolutely, yeah, I'm sure everybody has been writing down or following the lists. If you've been following Dan's, you'll know that he said that the pilot, from when we reviewed the pilot, he said that's definitely in your top 10.
Yes.
And then when I embarrassed myself and had the walkabout at number 10, which I may have a little regret over, you politely disagreed and said, no, this is way high. So I know those are still to come.
Still to come, yep.
Plus, there are some other bangers, undeniable classic episodes of this show. I know The Constant
is not there.
Isn't included. We all know The Constant's not there. So what it makes me worried that again today we're going to have one of those sort of classic episodes where we may end up sort of having the same one. So I, hand on heart, I have no idea what is left in your top.
No, we definitely don't collaborate on our lists. They're top secret. We keep them well hidden before we record.
100%.
Yes.
But so look, we'll just have to wait and see, won't we?
Yes, that'll be at the end of the episode.
Yes, that's right. And if people want to consult either the official top 10 list that we're following or our own lists, check out the socials. You can follow all the links to get there and see those on there.
Yes. Did we have any further thoughts on the end that we might have a little bit of previously on Lost Within Lost?
Previously on Lost
Within
Lost.
We do actually. I have a quick note. Like you brought up the point around wanting to know how things were going to result. Like the island itself was maybe becoming less of a priority, and that what was happening in this other world, what was going to be the big answer there. But I think I didn't emphasize enough. Like the whole reason why that episode is in my top 10 is purely based on the outcome, and the outcome being that Hurley is the one that is the left in control of the island. I don't think we really kind of hit on that very big. So I just wanted to put that out there. Like that's pretty much why. Another reason why I love this show is that you follow that guy's journey. We love Hurley. And then whether the show, I don't know whether they intended it from the beginning or not, but just to leave, it's almost like leaving the show in the hands of someone that we love so much.
Well, especially since Hurley was such an audience surrogate for a lot of it. He was always, running around asking the questions, just like, all right, this is yours now. This is where we're going. You are now in charge of this Lost story. And I also love the fact that, of course, Benzie's number 2, which is just
and I've seen
fantastic.
There's even some fanfic and some people have made comics and stuff about their time on the island post show. Those are really fun. I'll try and dig those out and share those as well. But wanted to cover that there. And shall we move on to homework?
Well, but before we do, something else occurred to me about the end as I was reflecting on it and kind of the time frame. And this has never occurred to me until we did the last episode, which is kind of mind-boggling because I'm about to change the mood of the podcast slightly. Because I think perhaps one of the reasons the end really hit home with me is that my mum was really sick around this time. She'd been fighting cancer for about 4 years. And while this season was going on, she's kind of in and out of hospital, having surgery and all this kind of stuff. And almost exactly 2 months
Hmm.
after the end aired,
Oh,
she died. Like she was gone.
Dan, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah, that's a long time ago now. It's fine, but yes, thank you. But I think on some level, like this whole
hmm.
themes of mortality
Yeah.
were on my mind, and so it was very satisfying. I'm not a religious
Hmm.
person, don't believe in the afterlife, but the whole I just found this, and I may have nothing to do with it. I may have found it equally satisfying if
Hmm.
my mum was perfectly healthy, but I just think when I was looking back, I was like, wait a sec, 2010.
Yeah.
That's when my mum died, and she like
Yeah.
died 2 months later. It's like, wow, okay, so maybe this has had a deeper impact on me than I was even
Yeah.
thinking about at the time. So yeah, I just kind of realized the connection. I thought I should have mentioned that last time.
No, it's
That's
lovely.
kind of a big relationship.
That's I think that's the message that was kind of the clearest. I think when I saw it at the time, I was just like, hey, it's the friends you make along the way. Like it's those
Mm,
connections, and don't worry, it
yeah,
all meant something. And that I guess the show is proposing this idea of like you all get to have one final kind of get together and to kind of move through. But
yeah.
it does make you really kind of reflect. Yeah, that's my mum had her battle with cancer and got through it probably around
Mm,
a similar time.
yeah.
So I know what that's like. It definitely yeah,
Mm,
lots of big thinking. And yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, that's really well, again, like it's a really touching story, and thank you for sharing it
Yeah.
on the podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I just found it very strange that I'd never
Yeah.
made that connection before of how they were so close together in time until I was kind of looking at the sheet and going, wait a
Yeah.
sec,
Yeah.
2010. We should segue into something more
What about
amusing,
what
perhaps.
about spooky hotels? So because the last time we
Yes.
chatted, I mentioned Bad Times at the El Royale, which was fascinating because you just looked at me blankly,
Mm,
and I was like, "But this is Drew Goddard." We
yeah.
like a lot of his work, and he'd earned, as a director, he'd earned the right to sort of put his name on a project and go, this one's from Drew Goddard, but you'd never even heard of it. And
Yeah.
I
Never
feel like there
heard
was
of
a
it.
reason for that. What was your review?
So I have a general theory that most modern movies
Yeah.
are about half an hour too long. I kind of felt this one was
Hmm.
also half an hour too long, but it was action, like it had so
Mm.
many twists and turns. Like I got to about halfway through it and I was just like, I've had enough twists and turns here to satisfy. Like it should have been a season of TV. It should have been like an 8-part show
Yeah, yeah.
because there were easily enough stuff in there to drag it out.
I'm convinced, and I couldn't find this anyway, but I'm convinced that he started it as a TV show, or the script started that way.
Mm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Does it start with like John Hamm, in the hotel, and he's sort of, looking through like there's like a false wall or something, right? And it's so
Yeah,
slow,
yeah.
and there's other scenes as well where it's really slow, and there's dialogue, and you feel like this is for TV, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, go bang, 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 shoot, 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 and things are dropped.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It keeps
Yeah.
flipping on you so often. It's just all right. I know who this dude is. No, he's shot. He's dead. And like I know who this dude is. No,
Yes.
he's someone else completely. It's just like whoa. I can't keep track of all this. Like I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it, but it was just like this is a lot to cram into
Yeah,
a
yeah. The
single
movie throws a lot at
movie.
you. What did you think? Okay, I still don't know the answer to this. Was Chris Hemsworth good or bad in this movie?
Oh, he's bad, isn't he?
I don't know.
Oh, a good actor or a bad
Good,
character?
good performance or bad performance?
I thought it was a great performance. I enjoyed his performance. I thought you were asking whether he was a good or bad character. I'm pretty sure he's a
No, no,
bad
no, no.
guy.
Yeah, yes, no, no. I still couldn't even watching at the time. I was like, because you used to seeing him like by this point, he's basically Thor or generic action man.
Did you see him in the new Mad Max, the Furiosa?
I
He
still
was
haven't. No, I've still got to
okay.
get around to that. But yeah,
He channels a very similar vibe in Furiosa. So if you enjoyed
okay,
him in
yep.
this, you might enjoy him in Furiosa as well.
I do. It's watching, sitting down to watch one of those Mad Max films. A lot of things need to go right in your life. You can't have a 2-year-old wandering around. You can't be like pausing it. It can't even be daylight. Like
Yeah,
you've got to get into a dark room, and yeah.
yeah.
So now, Have you seen the Netflix documentary Voyeur? This is
No.
about um, a guy who modified an old hotel in, I think his name was Gerald Foos. He owned a hotel, a motel in Aurora, Colorado, and he basically built like an observation platform into his hotel, so he could creep around and watch any guest he wanted to. So there's a documentary because there was an article written about this man, and then they've made the Netflix documentary. And I feel like it was the inspiration for Bad Times at the El
Yep.
Royale and that opening scene with John Hamm. It's an interesting documentary. It's creepy as hell. This man is not a hero, and he's not
Yeah.
portrayed
No.
like the dude is a total creep. But he custom built this his motel so that he could do
So,
all this weird shit.
so he's a creep, but he's a handy creep.
Well, yeah, like it's one of those things where you look at it from the motel from the side of the road and you're like, geez, that's a big building. And then you
Yep.
get in and all the rooms are really small because it's
Mm.
full of false walls and
Yeah.
things because he's like sliding up there around there on a pulley system and stuff. It's part ingenious, mostly horrific that this man did this thing, but
Mm.
he's never been arrested. He's not in
Oh,
jail or
really?
anything like that. No, no.
I would have thought that was illegal.
Yeah. So it again, it gave me very like bad time at the El
Mm.
Royale vibes when watching John Hamm at the start of the movie. So half a recommendation.
Did it give you psycho vibes?
It yes. So I did watch Psycho. Bit weird when Vince Vaughn was there. I wasn't ready for that. Uh, no, I watched the original Psycho. Yeah, I didn't think that element would come through, because
Man,
he's sort of
he's
watching.
having a peep as well.
Yeah, but it's all part of this incredible character portrayal. Like
Mm.
he's absolutely fantastic. The biggest thing I learned was that I had no idea cars were that easily to dispose of in bogs.
Yeah.
You could just roll a car into a bog,
Yep.
and it would be gone within
Eventually
seconds.
gone. There's a brief moment where it kind of bloops and doesn't look
Holds
like it's
on.
going to go down, and then it does.
Yeah,
So, yes.
yeah. No, that's my first Hitchcock
Mm.
watch, and I strongly recommend.
Started with a good
Yeah,
one.
easy watch. Not like there lots of suspense. What it featured, I think one of my favorite scenes again is something you would never see in a movie now. Is this idea is that you could just go around and knock on the sheriff's door in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
and then he comes down the stairs and he's adjusting his robe just so that you could be like, there's been some weird happenings at the old
Yep.
Bates Motel, and he oh, okay, let's try and solve it. Like you just become friends with the sheriff.
Yeah.
I'm missing all the important scenes, but all of those really deliver. Like, yeah, strong recommendation.
Yes.
Except for the part at the end where the detective explains everything that you've just seen.
Yeah. Yeah. You
I'm
don't really
surprised.
need that. No. I think we have discussed that on our Hitchpod podcast that it's
Oh,
just
good.
like it's just kind of introducing people to some of the ideas of the day, the psychological things that were a little bit new, and the
Mm.
theories that your average Joe cinema goer in Hollywood in 1960 may not have been fully around. So it's just like, all right, here's what's happened. Here's why he's this way, and
Yep.
as all to modernize, it's all a bit clunky right at the end there.
Yeah. Strong recommendation. I did not know that. So Anthony Perkins, that plays,
Woman,
yes, his son Oz Perkins is a director. Have you seen any
yeah,
of his films?
Long Legs.
Long Legs. Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I know of it. Yes.
Yeah. Far too scared to ever watch that one, but he's making a bit of a name for himself now, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that's cool. That sort of legacy of this. So Anthony Perkins went on to just make lots of thrillers and horror films, right? Like,
Yeah, he got a little bit typecast after this.
yeah.
I did like how the two movies, we didn't plan this, but there were a few intersections. So you had the peeping Tom business, but you also had like the stolen money,
Yes.
which was so there were a few good twists in there. So it was I enjoyed it. And sudden murders out of nowhere of people you thought might have been main characters. Just like, okay,
Yep.
this is
Yep.
not
Yep.
dissimilar.
It's I tell you, it's lost within lost,
Yes.
and it's amazing how full circle some of these things come. Let's get into it. We are of course going to talk about Aeterno
Yes.
from season 6, episode 9. I'll give you the IMDb summary. The mysteries behind Richard Albert's arrival to the island, his immortality, and his alliance with Jacob are revealed, plus more details about the purpose of the island and the relationship between Jacob and the smoke monster.
Yes. So that's a big promises there.
But that's pretty boring.
Yeah.
Yes, pretty boring, Dan. I'd love to hear your review.
All right, so let's go back to my blog at the time, and here's what I had to say about this particular episode. It's time for some Richard Alpert backstory, or, as most loyal viewers would agree, several seasons past time. It turns out he's a 19th century horse riding Spaniard who accidentally murdered a doctor who both dillied and dallied when it came to providing medicine for his, Richard Alpert's, wife. That's one way to keep them at the top of their game, RA. Other ways to keep doctors on the top of their game? Locking them in an underwater prison and making them watch the woman they love and their most bitter rival get it on in a polar bear cage. Thanks for that tip, Ben L. from somewhere other than Portland. Anyway, rather than being hailed for his breakthrough in the whole doctor-patient relations arena, Richard is instead sentenced to death. In accordance with 18th century Spanish law, this is downgraded on appeal to being a slave on a ship that gets smashed into the middle of the island. After everybody else dies, Richard becomes a plaything to be battered forth between Jacob and the man in black. Eventually, he sides with Jacob and ends the episode by still sticking with him, thanks to some timely Hurley Ghost Whisperer work. Meanwhile, in that other universe, Richard's been dead for well over a century. So rather than spend precious screen time lingering on a weed-ridden grave, we just skip the alternate universe entirely this episode. Those Lost Riders always thinking. So there you go. Slightly longer than
Very
usual.
good. No, they've got. I mean, it's. I don't want to spoil this. I'm going to jump ahead, but this is actually the longest episode of Lost that is not a premiere or a finale. So if you just think about your regular, week to week episodes, it happens to be the longest one. They really give Richard the full red carpet, and they really tell a story.
Yep.
So this episode was written by Melinda Sue Taylor and Gregory Nations. Now, do you know who Gregory Nations is? Does that name sound familiar to you?
It rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you where from. Is it just purely Lost related? Is he just a common name that I've heard a lot in Lost?
Just Lost related.
Yeah.
So basically, Gregory Nations, I love this story, right? So he would write the episode recaps for the Lost website.
Okay.
Which he did from the scripts, right? So he never had time to watch he would have to get it done early.
But he didn't write it for the Foxtel magazine, did he?
No, because as we know, those were shoddily written by our friend Fiona, who would just mail those in. Now, this day and age, she'd be using ChatGPT, right? Just to be able to whip those up. He by season 6, he's on the writing team. He ends up writing a couple of episodes, but before he made it that far, he wrote the dialogue for Lost, the mobile game.
Lost the mobile game. There were a few games, weren't there? I don't remember Lost the mobile game.
There were a few games, and we will get to them. And I will resume summarizing this episode in moments. But first thing I need to do is tell you about Lost the mobile game.
Okay,
because
hit me.
You need to go back to 2010. There's no app store.
No,
we don't have iPhones. We had iPods, and if you text "Play Lost" to 80100. You would be able to download this Java-based game, Lost, the mobile game. Is basically it was based on the first 2 seasons and the first 6 episodes of season 3. What a horrific time period to sort of get just the 6 episodes. And you would play as Jack, and so there was 5 chapters. You use weapons, stealth tactics, and puzzle solving. It looks cool. It's that very sort of old 8-bit or 16-bit style, but on a mobile phone. It's terrible. A commendable 6.5 from the team at IGN.
Okay.
For the Lost mobile game.
I'm sure it answered all the mysteries as well.
That's right. So you basically just followed the main story beats, but every now and then Jack would get called away to because there's a brush fire or something. So I don't think Gregory Nations at the time had permission to write in any other events other than those calls. So it's basically just in each level, it's Claire is sick. Jack needs to go get something and bring it back. Claire is gone. He meets one of the others, an unnamed other, throws him in a pit until he dies. And the speculation is that that was Ethan, but I'm like, well, it can't be Ethan because that's not
No.
how he died on the island.
Yeah.
So get your act together, Gregory Nations and the rest of the writing room. So that I had to bring Lost the mobile game into the universe of this
Yeah.
podcast. It had
That's
to be done.
excellent. I want to get an emulator now so I can download it and play it. I'm not sure where to get it from, but
Oh,
it
gee.
must be possible.
Yes, yeah, sure. You probably play it on your wristwatch
Watch.
now. Yeah. So this episode was directed by Tucker Gates. It originally aired in the US on the 23rd of March 2010. And Australia, we only had to wait 1 week.
Yep.
March 31st, 2010 is when it aired in Australia. Has an IMDb rating of 9.2. It's on our
Mhm.
list at number 5. 9.3 million Americans tuned in to this one. Now, would you like to hear the Australian numbers?
Hit me. Now the rule of thumb was it should be around 10%. Was that right? Was that the rough rule of
Around
thumb?
10%. Yeah, if something's really firing, you should be doing about 10% of what the US
Yeah.
is. Not to spoil it, it was around about 380, 400. But it's not such a simple story, Dan,
Mm.
because what's happening at this stage in season 6 is that over on Channel 7 at 8:30, there's no more Lost. 9:30, nah, not happening.
Is it on one of the secondary stations?
Yeah, they started playing it on 7 too. However, audiences still hadn't learned that they had those extra channels.
Yes.
So it was like a cat and mouse game. The networks would never truly put an important property onto one of those channels for fear that, like, because the audiences naturally wouldn't find it. You wouldn't get the same kind of numbers.
Yep.
So they're really gun shy. They don't put any good content on it, and so we as audiences don't
Don't go there.
migrate there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, chicken and egg. So over on 7 2 at 8:30, yep, you've got Lost. 195,000 viewers are tuned in because they want that like 8:30 p.m. Lost experience. Meanwhile, over like on the main station, it's a Criminal Minds repeat that has
Oh.
over 1 million viewers.
Yep.
1 million people tune in for a Criminal Minds repeat. Over on Channel 9, it's RPA. They're also doing 1 million. And over on Channel 10, of course, Channel 10, it's So You Think You Can Dance,
All
Australia.
right. Do we know who was
Pulling in
voted
about
out that week?
No, I didn't. Dan, you put me on the spot.
I reckon it was Kostya Zoo.
No, So You Think You Can Dance this is kids. This is people that think they can dance. This is like
I'm thinking of the other one.
you're thinking of Dancing with the
Yeah,
Stars.
Dancing with the Stars. Yeah, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well,
No.
that's even worse.
Yeah, that's right. It turns out we don't want to watch.
There's no celebrities on this one.
No,
No wonder they're not getting any viewers.
just people bad at dancing getting voted out. Over on Go, we had the Sarah Connor Chronicles. So
Mhm.
Sarah Connor Chronicles, 130,000 versus Lost, 195,000. So we're winning. We're winning that battle.
Beating the Terminator.
Any idea what's happening on the second channel on 10, Dan?
Oh,
You should know
God.
this. It's IPL T20 cricket.
Oh, is it really?
Yes, yeah. So
Must have been like the first season of one of the very early seasons of IPL cricket.
yes, yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think 10 had the rights for very long.
No,
And I don't think they were very valuable to them, seeing as most of the games took place at about 1 a.m. So I think that might have been a problem. This must have been an
Was
early
it?
game.
Yeah, only 85,000 tuned in for it. Was a double header. The Royal Challengers of Bangalore versus the
Mhm.
Chennai Super Kings,
Yep. Great pair
and
of
then we
teams.
had the Delhi Daredevils versus the Rajasthan Royals.
Hmm.
Amit Mishra, 3 for 25 or 4 overs. That's pretty good figures.
Spell.
Yep. And if you'd watched the Royal Challengers, you would have seen Jacques Callis make 52 or 49. So not exactly T20 figures by today's.
No,
today's
he's
standards.
anchoring the innings there, is old Jacques.
Yes. So I thought you'd like that one, Dan. 10:30, Channel 7 on the main channel is when they play Lost. So it's like it's an encore episode.
Yep.
That does 260 odd thousand. So if you can kind of combine them, but they're up against the Footy Show and Cold Case and the late news on 10, and they're all doing far better. So that's where we're at in
Yes.
2010.
And this is
during
the final season, so it's
season.
just hanging in there. And of course, we're
Yeah.
not helping these numbers because neither of us are waiting 8 days to watch an episode of Lost.
No. We found them, and we were able to watch them in our own time. I'd
Yes.
say. So yeah, let's talk about it. Ab Aeterno.
Yes.
And like is this in your like where do you see this episode now? After in with the full picture.
I have no idea why this episode is in the top 10. I think
Interesting.
it's only there because of all the hype at the time around finally getting Richard's backstory. We waited
Hmm.
forever to learn what was going on. I think is a standalone episode. It's middle of the road. I don't think this is anything special. Yeah,
Really?
I'm a bit down on this episode. I think I might even put in
I
the
th
bottom half of episodes. What about you? What do you
Oh,
think?
okay. I think it's quite a nice episode. It's just that at this point in time, when you're so keen to know the answers and
Mm,
things, and when I thought when you see that, oh, it's a Richard episode, your mind automatically, my mind was like, oh, we're gonna get him, we're gonna flash back to different times, right? Where he was an important
yeah.
character in these different moments. Maybe we'll start with like the Widmores, and then keep
Mm,
flashing through all these moments. And then when it settles into that opening scene where he's with the doctor, and you're like, geez, they're
yep.
really taking the time with this. Like, this isn't go like we're just settling in on this right here.
Yeah.
I suppose it's a bit like the what's the episode with the origin story for Jacob and the man in black across the sea?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, where
Yes.
you've like, oh, you've really chosen to just bed yourself right here.
Yep.
And we're all getting anxious about like we need to, when are we going to get to the fireworks factory? So, but I think in isolation, I do think it's a nice episode, and I think there's a really nice crescendo to it, and I think it starts to move Hurley into a really interesting
Mm,
space
yeah.
as like he gets to tell Jack at one point, not everything's about you. I'm busy having a conversation with a dead Spanish
Yep.
person.
Yes.
So I don't think it's a bad episode, but
Yeah.
I think these episodes end up in the top 10 because they're like very reveal, like they're like, oh, that was when a reveal took place.
Yeah. And it also, as well as Richard, it does give massive backstory about the whole Jacob Man in Black relationship. Gives us the big metaphor
Hmm.
of, the island is a cork preventing,
Yep.
we know why the stakes are so high now. So there's certainly that. I guess the other thing, the one thing that I do really like about this episode, so this is a big tick as far as I'm concerned. I like how our perception of Richard has changed the more we learn about him, and it kind of culminates
Hmm.
in this episode. I think is one of the best themes of the show, which is anybody who seems all knowing or all wise, invariably they've got no idea what's going on. So we saw it with
Yeah.
Locke. Locke was kind of the first one. He seemed to know something about the island. He didn't know
Yep.
anything.
Yep.
And then we saw
No. No.
Ben, and Ben seemed to know
Hmm.
loads. And again, he was just kind of being dragged along. He was bluffing a lot of the time.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Eloise Hawking kind of, we thought, oh, well, she knows all about these time travel rules. Not really. She's got her dead son's diary and she's just faking it, I think, for the most part. Widmore can't really do anything, doesn't even know where the island is half the time.
No.
And then you've got Richard here, who seemed to be, this very wise advisor, knew everything that was going on the island. He's got no idea. He's just been led astray. He doesn't know who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. He's just going along with whoever seems the
Yeah.
best. And we eventually learn in Across the Sea, as you mentioned, Jacob and the Man in Black don't really know what's going on either. They've got this crazy woman pretending to be a mother who's told them all these
Yes.
rules, and they're
Yep.
just
Yep.
making it up as they go along. No one knows anything, and I think that's one of the kind of big themes of Lost that's kind of overlooked a lot of the time. And I like it as a theme. I think it's good.
Yeah, that's it. That's such an interesting thought, and I do think that the episode is a tick in terms of you start with a character like Richard, and you just oh, wouldn't it be fun if there's this guy and he's sort of ageless, and it
Mm,
takes multiple seasons of seeing this guy in little moments, and it sort of gnaws at like, oh my God, what is it,
yeah,
what is it, what is it? And when you get to the answer, for me, I'm satisfied as far
yeah,
as what the answer is, and they do a really good job of explaining why he would do this for what is
yeah.
ultimately hundreds of years, right? And I think that's why they spend so much time because you've got to introduce this idea of a wife, this person that he
Mm,
loved, which you've got to invent them
yeah.
and get the audience to buy into it, and that is this sort of dedication to Jacob comes from wanting that to be absolved.
Yep.
of the Doctor, who's inconsequential to this entire thing now. And so for me, that's a tick. And then Richard going on his own little mini story of going, well, you know what? Actually, I should have listened to the Man in Black.
Yep.
And he goes chasing after him to say, you know what? No, you were right. I accept your deal because this has not worked out for
Yep.
me. And then Hurley being able to kind of bring him back around. I like that arc. And so I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
like it in isolation, but at this, I guess maybe, and I don't know what I would have done differently. It's like let's sit down, let's take a moment to pause and write a love letter to Richard Alpert and really give the character a big moment and a big sort of send off. But your brain wants all these other things at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same time, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah. Average Lost is still a pretty good TV, and I just think this is average Lost. I just don't think it's top tier Lost. Yeah, that's
yeah.
just my preference.
Yeah, there's some good moments in here when the Man in Black eventually frees him from his chains and he's manipulating him and convincing him that Jacob's the devil and he has his
Yep.
wife. And he says it's good to see you out of those chains.
Yeah.
So that's a connection
Connection.
to
Yep.
something we'd
What
seen
Locke said.
earlier when
Yep.
Locke. Yes, and also the Man in Black, that you at least get more of that character in here. And he's never, I like how he's not also presented as this kind of like mustache twirling,
Mm.
I'm the embodiment of evil.
Yep.
Like he is righteous. He thinks he's right. Like he's
Yep.
convinced. And he's like, so he says to Richard, you need to take this dagger and go and kill Jacob. And he says, well, how am I supposed to kill this smoke? And he's like, no, I'm the smoke.
Mm.
He doesn't lie to him
Yeah.
and say, no, 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 you'll be fine. He's like, no, that's me. But trust me, that man over there, he's evil. But he does think that Jacob is evil.
Yeah.
He's not. It's not a I'm bad for the sake of bad. He genuinely hates that guy, and
Yeah.
and it leads to the wine metaphor, and they're trading rocks back and forth. I did like that Jacob beats the absolute crap out of him when like, whoa,
Yes.
where's this?
Jacob's got some jujitsu chops. He's pretty handy. Yeah. I,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I
yeah,
also
yeah.
quite like that Richard, and it makes perfect sense given the context of where he comes from, how that he's far more religious than we've ever seen him previously. Like he
Mm,
really believes like he is literally in
yep,
hell and he's literally dealing with the devil, and that he's a guy from the 1800s who's no doubt grown up extremely religious, and it's
yep,
there's always religious themes in Lost, and they're kind of balanced against these kind of scientific ideas as well. And Richard, up till now, has always seemed to be, this kind of voice of, well, not spirituality. Like he's always,
yeah, yeah,
this is
yep,
how it
yep.
works, this is everything, and that's
Hmm.
it's kind of it's a good twist to have him be. No, he's this deeply religious guy who
Yep.
thinks he's dealing with the devil, and he just doesn't know which one is the devil.
Yeah, yeah. And when other characters have challenged him about Jacob, and we just have to trust that he does have a relationship with Jacob, and then you see it, and you see
Yeah,
that he gives him eternal life. So of course he's
yeah,
got full belief
yeah,
in Jacob and everything he can do. So it makes sense that he would dedicate his life the way that he does because I guess I guess God's plan, I
mm,
quote unquote, he's like, I trust that this man is trying to do the right thing or trying to get the candidates to
yeah,
to
yeah,
do the right thing. So all of that works. There's some other little Easter eggs. Magnus Hanso is the one that
mm,
buys.
yep,
Richard becomes the property of Magnus Hanso, and of course the Black Rock, sailing along. So I thought that's kind of a fun little thing as
yeah,
well.
yeah. They do tie
And
a lot of good things together there.
yeah, yeah. And when he offers Richard a job, Richard's like, "All right, I'll do it, but you need to bring my wife back."
Yeah,
And Jake's like, "Nah, I can't do that."
yeah, no,
He's like, "All right, absolve me." Nah, I can't
nah,
do that either.
can't do that either.
Eternal life. It's odd that he's like, "Okay, fine, I don't want ever to, I want to live
Yeah.
forever." Yeah. So, any other thoughts on Aeterno? It's interesting now that we've talked about it to think about its place in all these other
Mm.
episodes.
So yeah, throughout most of Lost, I was listening to this podcast called Jay and Jack. I think it was the Lost
Uh-huh.
podcast with Jay and Jack, and they were
Right,
kind
right.
of the premier podcasters at the time on Lost. They jumped in early, they cornered the market, and
Yep.
yeah, they were one of the leading ones. So they were massive, and they became so massive that in season 6 they had this competition, and I'm almost certain I tried to look this up, but all the websites are dead now. But I'm pretty certain I remember that the first prize of this competition was a replica Dharma van. You would win a Dharma
Wha-
van if you won this competition. I think that's
Jeez.
right.
Yeah.
If someone could find me evidence otherwise, I apologize, but I'm
Yeah.
almost
Yep.
certain that's right. Anyway, all you had to do for the competition, there was about, I don't know, 25, 30 questions you had to answer, predicting
Mm-hmm.
things that would happen during season 6. You get points
Oh.
every time you got it right. And then at the end of the season, they sum them all up, and whoever got the
Yep.
most
Yep.
points won.
That's like these new betting things where you pick like a 10 20 point multi,
Yeah.
like this that, yeah, you've got to predict how everything is going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. So
Incredible.
I could give you some samples of the questions that were in there because I
Yeah.
entered the competition despite the
Yep.
fact, like, if I won, there was no way of me getting a Dharma van to us. Like, it was just, I just entered it because it was fun. I was listening to the
Yeah.
podcast. The questions were fun. So the first, I'll give you the first few questions. Which of the following characters will be the first one to speak in episode 1? So this is episode 1 of season
Oh,
6, the final
yep.
season. That was worth
Okay.
108 points if you got that correct. And I guessed Jack. I
Yep.
don't remember if that was correct or not, but
Why not?
the first episode's first scene will be on the island. Was worth 23. Off the island was worth a different number of points, I
Mm.
guess, on the
Hmm.
island.
Starts with it's the window. Remember, because
Yes.
there's the bomb going off, and then the into the window. Jack,
Yep.
Desmond in the plane. Yes. So you
Yep.
may have got your Jack points, or actually, it may have been Desmond.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I can't remember.
irrelevant.
How many times will Hurley say dude was one of the questions. It was worth 108 points. I guess 23.
Yep.
How many times will Sawyer say son of a bitch? That was also worth 108 points. I guess he'd say it 8 times. How many characters from the first episode will appear in the last episode of the show? That was also worth 108 points. And I guessed 8, which seems to be way too low. I think there were a lot
No,
more in the last episode,
basically everyone. Yeah.
and so forth. And question 15, and this is why this is relevant, was will we
Okay.
see Richard's backstory? And I
Ah.
answered, no, we will not. And that
Oh.
was worth 42 points.
Yep.
And yet, despite getting that question and a few other questions wrong, somehow I
Mm.
came fourth in this competition out of however
Wow.
many hundreds of people entered.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what questions I got right or wrong,
Yep.
because as you can see, just from that first handful, I got quite a lot wrong.
Yeah.
And yet somehow I must have got some it was all guesswork. It was all a guessing game. But my prize was a whole heap of memorabilia, including I got a signed
Oh.
photo of Michael Emerson, some
Yep.
random postcards, all kinds of just, buttons and badges and things.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I don't remember where any of it is. It's
Oh no.
yeah, I'd forgotten all about it
I
till
thought we were about to announce a competition and on the podcast, and you win yourself a signed picture of Michael Emerson.
yeah. Well, if I find it, I'll put it up for grabs. But I'll let you know if I find it. But I haven't been able to. I may have been chucked out at some point in one of my many moves. But one of the things I did find while looking for them was a bobblehead Jack statue.
Oh, there he is.
So I'm just showing it to Chris on the video
I can
here.
see it. So no, I'll just describe it because I have a question. Is it plain Crash Jack, or are those? So he's got some red markings on his face. Are they like lipstick marks, or are they or is it supposed to be like scuff marks?
I think it's scuff marks. I think he's
Yeah.
injured from the crash. He's about to go
Yep.
into rescue. He's got
Oh yeah, there's the title. Yeah. Oh, and there's Vincent.
Vincent's beside him. So there you go. I don't
Fantastic.
remember where I got that from. Might have been a birthday or a Christmas present, but I don't think I got it as part of coming forth in this competition.
That's fantastic. It's so cool to see a little memorabilia thing like that isn't a Funko Pop. So should definitely take a photo of that.
Yes.
And put it up on the socials to see what those things used to look like before
Yeah.
they were all Funkos.
The other thing I was going to say is I entered this competition under an alias. They asked for just a name, and I was on Twitter, so I just started up Twitter.
Yep.
I think I mentioned this in a previous episode that I was using the alias Juliet's Smokin' Muffins, which was my profile picture was the scene with Juliet sitting in front of the oven with her burnt muffins. And each
Oh,
week I just do a whole heap of jokes about the lost episode. And sometimes I was in character as sentient muffins, but most of the time
uh-huh.
it was just random jokes on moments from the episode. And I got like a few hundred followers doing that, which I thought was pretty cool. That account's long dead as well, but it kind
Oh,
of taught me
okay.
the potential of Twitter at the time. So
So anyone Googling Juliet smoking muffins is not gonna find
no,
anything.
that account's dead. You might be able to find some replies in there, but I don't even know. I think Elon killed the account. I don't think I ever actually deleted it. I think it just through lack of use was eventually
Yeah, right, gone.
reclaimed.
Okay, not even in the Wayback Machine. We'll see. I'll be testing that out during the week.
Good luck.
Um, Fantastic. Well, I've got some other sort of historical media from the
Mhm.
time if you wanna go
Yeah.
through that. So new segment I introduced last week was Lost parodies. Parodies of
Mm.
Lost.
Yep.
I'm fascinated by just how lazy they all are. Um, because we are in season 6, I've gone with the Jimmy Kimmel show. So I don't know the vernacular, the Tonight Show, the whatever. I know they're
Yep.
all there's lineage and things like that. But Jimmy Kimmel, you should all be familiar with his Tonight Show. So because he is on the ABC, and in the lead up to the finale, good on them. They did a whole bunch of interviews and they had a special episode where once the finale had aired, they went straight to Jimmy Kimmel and he had the cast and they did Q
Yep.
and A. And so they also did a series of skits
Yes.
to before the show ended. Now, there's a few of them here, Dan. I've shared them with you.
Yep.
I think the most famous is the alternate
Yeah. I've
ending.
definitely seen the alternate endings before.
Yeah, but there's some other ones where Jacob visits Jimmy in high school
Mm.
and not very funny. It's just he just gives him a case of beer.
Yep.
Haha. There's a pretend ad for not just Connect Four, but the game Connect 4 Million in
Yep.
honor of Jacob and the Man in Blacks.
I quite like that one.
Um,
I thought that one was okay.
yeah, they're always playing games. So,
Yep.
like, well, if you've got to pass the time over hundreds of years, so there's this comically giant game of Connect Four, and then they do a Dharma orientation tape, which is so wasted. You've got the man
Yep.
there, and they've got the black and white thing. It looks fantastic, and it's just some bad jokes about like now that you're about to finish Lost, we
Yeah.
want to prepare you. This
For
is
the outside
orientation
world.
for
Yeah.
what to do. Yeah, the outside world, what to do without Lost. Maybe have a shower. Ha
Yeah.
ha ha. Was that Casey Affleck in the
I
person that hadn't showered?
let's say it was.
There's no.
I must admit I didn't look that closely at
there
the
are
random
there are
actor.
two comments on the video on YouTube, and I'm just squinting at it. I'm like, because he's got the person's got a beard and stuff. So anyway,
Yeah.
we'll save that for the. But yeah, the big one is the alternate endings. Anything stand out? Did you like any of this, Dan? You're a comedy writer. Is this?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the Jeff Probst one is near and dear to my heart as a Survivor fan as well. Him coming in
Yes.
and snuffing Saeed's torch and saying you have to go, and then I do like the cut to Saeed, and him giving his little confessional saying he can't believe that he's been booted off. So that was quite amusing.
Yep. Yep.
But I think they were all good. I've never seen The Sopranos as one of my pop
Oh.
culture gaps,
Okay.
but I
Yeah.
knew
Yeah.
the ending. I
Yep.
knew what it was referencing. I got all that from just being alive when The Sopranos ended. I think if
Yeah.
you were alive and online, you knew what happened.
It's
Um,
an odd choice to parody because it is such a subtle.
mm,
Because it's really just the family sitting down at the diner and they just
yeah,
kind of
cut to black.
replicate that.
Mm.
Yeah, and then there's the really bonkers. Is it Bob Newhart?
Yeah, Bob
The
Newhart, and that's one of the
yeah,
most famous finales ever. And
yep,
I
yep.
knew all about that. I'd never seen either of the Newhart shows.
Hmm.
So the one that this was the end of, which was also referring back to the previous one. I don't. One of them's called the Bob Newhart Show. One's just the Newhart Show. I don't know which is
Yep,
which. I'm
yeah.
not researching it. Sorry about that. But yes, but yeah, the parody that's fine. Kate in the bed. Well, yeah, whatever. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's I always find these things fascinating because it's big network TV, and to get access to the all of the talent to come
Mm,
and commit to these types of skits and
yeah,
things. And I imagine the writing process, it must be a quick turnaround because there's nothing inspiring or no, no, they've not tapped into anyone's
yeah,
kind of comedic side or anything. They even get Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse to reenact writing episodes and things
yeah.
like that. To me, it's like this is probably going to be the dorkiest thing I say on this or on any
Whoa.
podcast. Uh, is I always find it weird when, say, on SNL, they'll get, say an actor will come on to host that week because they've also got a big movie out at the same time, and then they'll do a skit where they have that person, they spend an insane amount on wardrobe and effects to almost recreate the movie that's just come out. So
Yeah,
like it's too polished. If it's Christian Bale redoing Batman, the suit looks incredible, and then there's just this shitty skit
yeah.
that doesn't really sort of hit at anything, and I don't, there's something about that that really kind of, I don't know, gets in my brain like, why wouldn't you make them maybe pretend to be one of the other characters or one of their other
Yeah.
cast members or something
Yeah.
like that? But I always find that weird. I don't know about you, but that's just a strange
Just,
thing that gets
yeah.
me.
Make it better. Yeah. Do
All right,
better.
I wanted to bring this up. Put a pin in Jeff Probst.
Mm,
People on an island. How do we get them off the island? Ah, Jeff Probst comes in and votes them
yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha. So those are our lost parodies for this week. Definitely the best looking parodies, but
Yeah.
possibly the weakest.
Oh, I don't know. Some of those SNL ones were pretty terrible.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. I've already forgotten the worst ones, which is definitely the SNL ones.
Yeah.
There's one more which I will also post in that, because it was 2010 and it was the final series at the 2010 Emmy Awards. Jimmy Fallon now
Mm, different
performed
Jimmy.
a tribute. Yes, performed a tribute to Lost. He did a musical parody of Green Day's "Good Riddance" song,
Mhm.
"Time of Your Life"
Yep.
song. Terrible jokes.
Was that just because that was the Seinfeld farewell song?
Yeah, it's been attached to it since they did it with Seinfeld. It's been
Yeah.
attached to everything else. So that's the loose connection there.
Right.
And he even in the song he even says they were dead the whole time. So like,
Yeah.
what are we even doing here? So I'll post that one. But unless there's anything else you want to cover, Dan, I'm ready to talk about award season. I'm ready to talk about the Emmys.
Well, I guess the only other thing that I've got here would, I mean, this would ordinarily be where I'd have ChatGPT,
Oh yes.
answering mysteries. This episode is a mystery solving machine. It's just like, no, we're answering this and that. Like the great 2-for-1, where it's just like, no, Black Rock the statue, bang, no, they're
Hmm.
together. That's the same thing that
Yep.
happened in 10 seconds. Gone. Solve
Hmm.
those two. So it's a big mystery answering episode. But you did have one question that you asked me
I
to
did.
throw
I
over to
did.
ChatGPT. And that question was, how does Isabella appear on the island at the end of the episode?
Hmm.
And ChatGPT's answer: at the end of the lost episode Aeterno, the appearance of Isabella is portrayed differently compared to earlier in the episode. This time, it is implied to be a genuine spiritual connection facilitated by Hurley, who can communicate with the dead. So there you go.
Okay, I guess we're just putting that one in the Hurley could, because I always thought you had to die on the island or you had to be,
Yeah, I did think about that. I did some non-ChatGPT based research, and I think Hurley can just see, like, dead people aren't like, he sees Mr. Echo in the
Hmm.
institution. So Mr. Echo's wandering around all over the place. He was on the island when he died. Now he's off.
True.
I
Yep,
think I
yep.
think it doesn't matter where you are. If you're a ghost, Hurley can just have a chat with you if you
Yeah,
feel
right.
like having a chat with him, no matter where you died.
I wonder if Mr. Echo had to take a flight or to get to.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe he got the dead plane up and running, and
yeah,
off he goes. Here,
it's
Yami.
it's probably the one thing that still I've got no way of explaining the way they love to do their whispering voices
Mm,
everywhere, which they've tried to explain as the others just being really coordinated or the spirits of the island.
yeah.
And then just whenever they decide they want someone to turn up on the island, like Ben's mother
Yeah.
or Isabella and the like. All right, Aberturno is tucked up in the drawer. We'll put that one away,
Oh,
and
sorry. But before we do, sorry,
we've got more.
I got one more. Yeah, sorry. I did listen to the official Lost podcast, which had
Oh,
some
yes.
information about Aberturno. So just quickly, Damon Lindelof claimed that Aberturno means eternal abs, and that Richard Alpert had been working out to get them.
Oh, Damon.
They did answer a few questions. They dodged the answer to the question of what do the others call themselves. They just kind of said, oh, they call themselves the others. But they did claim that the martial arts instructors in New Otherton were killed in a fishing accident. And that's why all the later season others are less good at fighting than in the earlier seasons. So presumably Jacob taught them all how to fight because, as you mentioned, Jacob knows how to fight.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other, they had some Lost finale news. So they were talking about party costumes you might wear to a Lost finale party, dress up costumes. Carlton said he'd go as badass Kimi, and Damon said he'd go as Frogut with a flaming arrow sticking out of his chest. So that was their plans for a finale party, and they released the title of the finale. That was the first time that was
Right.
announced.
Okay.
They
I
just,
was going to
yeah,
say this sounds like a frustrating listen. Like you tune in for some good answers and some good behind the scene content, and they just messing with you
yeah, they're messing with you
um,
the entire time.
the entire time. That doesn't sound like fun at all.
Now I'm done with this episode.
Yeah, we can put that one to bed. Yes, but it was part of the final season, and that means any desperate last attempt at an award, we need to we need to go for it. So as I said at the 2010 Emmy Awards, they said goodbye to Lost by having Jimmy Fallon perform a parody of Green Day.
Yep.
No Weird Al for sure. But it was nominated for most outstanding drama series. Of course, it
Hmm.
did not win.
Yep.
Mad Men is your show of the moment in
Yep.
2010, beating out Breaking Bad. So yeah, I can give it to Mad Men, but both AMC shows. If you remember,
Mm.
things are changing. Things are
Yeah.
changing now. The couple of nominees in the acting category. You've got lead actor in a drama series. Matthew Fox is, of course, nominated
Hmm.
alongside Michael C. Hall of Dexter, John Hamm of Mad Men,
Yep.
Hugh Laurie of House, and Kyle Chandler of Friday Night Lights. But your winner is, we love him, Bryan Cranston for
Yeah.
Breaking Bad. So
That's fine. I can
happy
accept
with
that.
that. Happy with that. Supporting actor in a drama series. Michael Emerson and Terry O'Quinn both
Hmm.
getting the nod.
Yep.
It listed Terry O'Quinn listed as John Locke / the Man in Black. So spoiler alert if you're trawling
Yes.
the pages of the Emmys, alongside Martin Short for Damages, John
Okay.
Slattery in Mad Men, and Andre Brower of Lieutenant Holt in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And I know he had a
Okay.
very serious acting career before, but I only know him as Holt in Brooklyn Nine-Nine for the TV show Men of a Certain Age. But no, they all lost out to Aaron Paul of
Yeah.
Breaking Bad. So
So the Breaking Bad are breaking into the Emmys there. Yeah.
yep, yeah, they've taken over. Something they didn't often get was a directing nod, and I feel like this is just let's just show them a bit of
A pity
love.
nod.
Yeah, on the way out. Outstanding directing for a drama series. So The End was
Hmm.
nominated. So that's Jack Bender. He received a nomination,
Yep.
along with Mad Men, Treme, and Breaking Bad. But the winner went to Dexter for an
Okay.
episode called The Getaway. Steve Schill taking home the Emmy there. And then finally, outstanding writing for a drama series. Of course, The End, Carlton Cuse and Damon Lindelof getting a nod there, along with Mad Men, Good Wife, and Friday Night Lights. But two episodes of Mad Men are nominated. One of them win, and the other is
Okay.
is a runner up. So Mad Men gets the nod for writing. Golf clap to Lost.
Yep.
You thanks for
Thanks for.
playing. We'll,
Yep.
we'll miss you.
See you in another life.
That's right. See you in another lifetime. But maybe, just maybe, there's hope over at the Saturn Awards.
All right. Yep.
I love the Saturn Awards because it's, as they say, it's horror, it's sci-fi, it's genre, all of those things. Best network television series. That's what the category is called. We have The Vampire Diaries.
Hmm.
We have Supernatural.
Yep.
Smallville. Did you
Hey,
you were a fan, Dan? V. I was very excited about the return
bit
of.
of Juliet.
Yes, yes. I never ended up getting to see it though. I'm not sure where it aired. Lost was also nominated, but the winner went to Fringe, which I was
Okay.
really happy to. I was a
Yep.
big Fringe fan,
Yep.
as well. So good. I love the Saturn Awards because they're just like, no, we think that's the nerdiest one. That's getting the award.
Yeah.
The best you might be interested to know the best syndicated or cable television series went to Breaking Bad. I think they just start making up categories now so they can invite Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul to win an award. They did get nominations for best actor on television. I love how they just best actor on television. Matthew Fox, of course, continues to get nominated there alongside Cranston,
Hmm.
Michael C. Hall for Dexter, and Andrew Lincoln for The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead's
Okay.
just
Yeah.
kicked
Walking
off.
Dead's crawling out of the gutters.
Yes, yes,
I don't know.
but
Whatever they do in The Walking Dead.
yes,
I
yes,
did
but
I
in
did watch the first few seasons, but then
okay,
I dropped off.
yeah, no. So it wasn't zombies; it was vampires. Stephen Moyer for True Blood
Right.
as Bill Compton, the charming Bill Compton. Best actress Elizabeth Mitchell got a
Hmm.
nomination for V, not for
I
Lost,
was going to
which
say,
is
well, she was in one episode or two episodes of
yes.
Lost.
So no, lost to Anna Torv of Fringe. So happy the Australian Anna Torv.
Yes.
And the best supporting actor Michael Emerson will forever be nominated alongside
Hmm.
Terry O'Quinn, Dean Norris, Aaron Paul,
Yep.
Lance Reddick, Stephen Ewan for The Walking Dead, all nominated, but could not hold a candle to John Noble of Fringe.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fair.
Love
Yeah.
One of my biggest regrets was I was on a flight. I think I was just headed to Sydney or something, and sitting in the sort of opposite section of seats was John Noble. I
Oh,
spotted him, and he was
was he eating a juicy red tomato?
no, not on a flight. That's dangerous. It must have just been wrapping up Fringe, and I'll always regret not going and just sort of
Mm.
saying, hey, love your work, and Lord of the Rings and
Yep.
all that sort of stuff as well. He's a legend. There's also a little shout out to John Terry, Christian Shepherd, for
Hmm.
best guest performer on TV, but he wasn't able to win because Richard Dreyfuss for Weeds
Okay.
had won that one, and because it was a tie, so best guest performer couldn't pick a winner. It was a tie. Richard Dreyfuss and Joe Manganiello for True Blood.
Joe Manganiello now hosts Deal or No Deal Island.
Does
He
he?
does.
Is he the host?
And
He's
and currently on Deal or No Deal Island is the Golden God, David from Australian Survivor.
That's right. Yes, yes. So don't ask me how Deal or No Deal works on an island, but in
You don't want to know.
the other little podcast that I do, which is called Previously on Australian Survival, we review Aussie Survivor, and we are planning on just giving an update on how that plays out, given that the Golden God is there playing a game with Parvati,
Yes.
an American Survivor legend. So I won't be watching it. I'm relying on other people to tell me how it is. Worth noting that the DVD for season 6 got a nod for best DVD television release.
Fair
It
enough.
lost out to The Twilight Zone. Must have been a reissue or something, season
Okay.
1 or 2 of the Twilight Zone. And also, just to go full circle, best classic film DVD release. A nomination went to Psycho for the 50th anniversary release. So we've
Perfect.
come full circle. I
Lovely.
know you're probably sick of the awards, but we have to do.
Yeah.
We have to
Well,
do the best one, the Monte Carlo TV Festival.
that's I forgot about this. Yeah. Hit me.
We need to know who won the Golden Nymph in
Yes.
the Golden Nymphs in 2011. So, outstanding actor in a drama. Last week, we covered the 2009 festival. We had 8 losties. We had 8 nominees.
Out of about 23 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, 22 in total.
Yep.
2011 final season. It's just Matthew Fox and Terry O'Quinn that are
Oh,
getting the nod here. Couldn't find them in amongst the 22 other nominees for 2011. So John Hamm triumphs over
everybody.
the rest of the pack, and For outstanding actress, we had four of our favorite losties nominated out of 18 total nominees. In 2011, it is just Evangeline Lilly, I'm
Mm.
afraid. But no, she did not win. The winner was someone who I presume is somewhere working somewhere in the European industry, because I'd not heard of Sidse Babette Knudsen, who for the TV show Borgen,
Okay.
she came out on top. Best international producer. We finally got a nomination. Damon Lindelof, Carlton Cuse, and Jack Bender were nominated, but they lost to the combination of Stephen Levitan and Christopher Lloyd. That's right. Modern Family
Oh,
has just
okay.
hit the scene. So Modern Family wins, beating out Dexter, Downton Abbey, and The Misfits, which were also nominated. So Downton Abbey and Misfits were nominated for Best International Production and Best European Production. So
Mm.
don't know how that works. Truly, truly bizarre. I will miss you, Monte Carlo TV Festival, Golden Nymphs. But we'll see if Lost makes an appearance when we go back to some of the earlier seasons. Might
Why
be with a
not?
better shot. So that's all my classic media for this week. Dan, has this episode inspired any lists? Just like
List
Jacob.
within a list. Well, I think we decided this week's topic should be our favorite, in honor of Richard Alpert, who this episode is all about, our favorite
Yep.
timeless or immortal characters. So characters who don't age, more or less,
Yeah,
or
this is a
yeah,
tough one.
will not die.
Yep. How'd you go? Coming
I
up
don't
with a
have
few
many.
for
I've
this.
got I've got three,
Three. Okay.
and we may overlap here. I suspect.
Okay. I've got four,
Okay.
but geez, they're real. I don't. Oh, they real struggle.
All right. You go first if you got four.
I'll give you. Okay. All right. All right. So now this podcast has descended into, like, I like to think that if there was a visual representation of this podcast, especially when we do list within a list, it's basically the bedroom of a 13-year-old boy. There's
Yes.
posters of video games,
Yep.
Back to the Future, all the rest of it. So timeless, ageless. I'm going with Raiden from the Mortal Kombat
Oh,
series.
okay.
Now, Dan, you might say, but Chris, didn't Raiden give up his immortality at the end of 1996's Mortal Kombat trilogy? True. True, he did
That
give
was
up his
exactly what I was about to ask.
did give
Yeah.
up his immortality as a means to participating in the tournament as a response to Shao Kahn stealing souls from Earthrealm so that he could empower himself and merge with Outworld. Yes, that is correct. However, that's why I'm going with the version of Raiden that appeared in 1995's NBA Jam Tournament Edition,
Yes.
Console Edition, because Raiden was a playable character there. So this is before he's entered
Yeah. No, this is
the
all very logical.
third tournament. That is the most recent appearance of Raiden in the game before he loses that immortality. So it's the man with lightning coming from his fingers, once played by Christopher Lambert, which should have given me a clue to maybe some other immortal
Yeah, well,
characters.
I'm going to take Christopher Lambert. I'm going to claim Connor McLeod from Highlander. There
Yes.
can be only one, and this is my number one pick. Yeah,
Yep.
it's Queen soundtrack. It's Highlander. It's swords. It's immortal people chopping one another's head off. It's a great movie. Not sure it makes a lick of sense. What makes even less sense is the fact there were two sequels
Yeah, yeah,
after he
yeah.
killed everybody. Brilliant.
Yep.
Just a monumentally stupid and wonderful movie. Love Highlander.
Yes. Yeah. Strong recommendations for some Highlander.
Mid
Real just
80s gibberish.
Yep, utter stupidity. But geez, didn't Christopher Lambert just kind of fade away and into
Rightly so,
nothingness?
I think.
Yes, yes. All right. So I got the nerdy one out the way. My next one, it's my level 16 Blood Elf Frost Mage from World of Warcraft. This immortal character is still sitting somewhere on a server in Silver Moon City, in Eversong Woods in the Kingdom of Quel'Thalas. That is where my poor Blood Mage still lives to this day, waiting and waiting. But the Blood Mages were immortal, as you would know, along
Yeah,
with the
very immortal.
yes, along with the Death Knights. But I made sure I was 100% correct on that. So I didn't want to get in trouble from
Yeah.
anyone in that community. So yeah, that's my second nomination.
All right, I'm going to go into my my speciality. I'm going to go straight into the world of comic books. I'm going to pull out my copy of the X-Men and I'm going to turn to the page which says Wolverine, who does not age,
Ah,
who is effectively
yes.
immortal. You injure him, he
Yep.
comes back to life.
Hmm.
He ages, but he's never going to die. He's Wolverine. He's immortal. Yeah, and yeah. So that's my next one. The dude with the claws. He goes around slicing people up.
Are you a sort of classic era Wolverine? Did you see Wolverine and Deadpool
I did
and
indeed.
with Mr. Jackman sort of finally putting on the blue and yellow?
Yeah, yeah, classic
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, no, yeah,
Good.
that's all fine and silly. That's great. Yeah, I
Yeah,
read the
because
comics, like the movies. They're all good. Well, I mean, I
yep.
shouldn't say like the movies. I like some of the movies. Some of them are just utterly dreadful. But yeah, Wolverine and Deadpool, that's fine.
Good. You could put them together as a pairing, can't you?
Yeah.
All right. So I've talked about this show before, The Good Place.
Mm,
So there's a whole bunch of immortals in
yeah.
that show, but I'm going with Michael as played by Ted Danson. We know that
Yes.
in his natural form that he is a 6,000 foot tall giant fire squid covered in teeth, and but he does love the very itchy human suit that he wears. Plus, you've got like all your Jeremy Bearamys
Yes.
sort of the way time works and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people living and ageless for a very, very, very long time. So Michael for me, I love that show. I think and they did. I believe that so the creator Michael Schur he's spoken about how he reached out to Damon Lindelof and
Mm,
Carlton Cuse because he had this idea for a show where he wanted to map out. He knew the story start to finish. And so he wanted to get their perspective, like with hindsight,
yep.
what do I need to know? What do I need to do? Because I want to tell a story in a very specific way. And it's I think one of the better shows where they clearly knew everything they wanted to do and in what season and at what time. So if you enjoyed Lost and you haven't seen The Good Place, I recommend.
Yeah. It's a very good show.
Mm.
One show that we have also talked about and which I wouldn't necessarily wholly recommend. Let's go back to Heroes,
Okay.
which had by the time it had gone completely off the rails by the time we're into this Aeterno season 6 of Lost. But in season 2, which was the beginning of the end for Heroes, we did have a villain called Adam Munro, who met
Oh.
Hero, the time traveler, when
Hmm.
Hero jumped back into feudal Japan at the beginning of season 2. So
Right.
Adam Munro met him there. They were besties for a bit, then they became enemies. And then I can't remember the details. Adam Munro was trapped in a box for a bit. And then
Right.
because, Hero jumped back to modern times. But Adam Munro was immortal. So he just slept and waited and eventually popped back up in present day 2010 and started sorting stuff out. So yeah, so Heroes, Adam
Wild.
Munro. That's it. That's all I've got. I've got no more immortal people.
I've got one more.
Yep.
Roland Deschain, if you are familiar with the Dark Tower series
Oh yeah, yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
Stephen King,
Yeah, I haven't
um,
read them all. I read a couple, and it was that's fine. I get the gist.
yeah, I got really stuck into that series, and yeah, if you know, you know, when it comes to his immortality or not aging, I'll leave that one out there. But it's a fascinating. I love following that property because the books are great. There's some comics that have been created that they've adapted from that. But then every time anybody has had a go at trying to make a TV series or there was a movie, it just nobody can get it right. And
Yeah,
it's such a great story, ready for being converted into some kind of movie or TV series. But a lot of failed attempts, and they've all been sort of tracked over the years. Really interesting stuff. I'll just quickly I've not seen much of Doctor Who, but I assume
yeah,
the Doctor
yeah, yeah,
counts.
yeah. I
Um,
thought of Doctor Who, and I thought I don't really know my Doctor Who lore, so
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. And someone who is not on the list. In fact, they tried to get on the list, and I said, "No, you're not allowed on the list." The immortal Hulk Hogan. He's in the bin. We're not doing the Hulkster. So
Yep.
he can go away. So no immortal. Hulk
Yep.
Hogan. Okay, welcome back. It is time once again to catch up with our favorite first-time viewer, Fiona. Fiona, hello. How are you?
Hello, I'm here.
Yep.
Yeah, so glad you're here. Lapidus has fired up the chopper. You, me, and Dan. It's time to jump on board. The freighter's in sight.
Well, I'll jump off halfway through.
If you could, for some reason.
I just said, by the end of this conversation, somebody will need to jump off overboard. But Dan's already volunteered, so
No worries.
this is excellent. Will we make it to the freighter? Fee, you've just finished season 4. That's right.
Yeah.
Before we crack in, I just an overall your relationship with the series. Where are you tracking? Thumbs up, thumbs down, in the middle, 45 degrees. How are you feeling?
I enjoyed this season, less episodes, a little snappier.
Yeah.
Like, I know that wasn't really planned. There was obviously a huge, writers' strike, but it felt snappier to me. I was a little off because anybody who knows me knows there's one thing my brain can't comprehend, and that's time travel. And woo, there was lots of like time slips and time loops and who's here and where are they. Overall, still enjoying it. I'd say we're sitting at a solid like B plus, I reckon.
Okay.
That's good.
Yep. Yeah, like sometimes it's so dramatic I can't deal with it. I'm like, oh god, like is this like everything's the biggest thing to have ever happened, and then Locke looking smug, but I'm definitely enjoying it for sure.
I will. Speaking of Locke, this is one of the most fascinating things to me. Your characterization of Locke, and this is going to be one of the what I was going to ask you about, right? Because the way this season ends is, Jack and Locke once again head to head. We need to leave the island, and the other saying, no, we're here for a reason. Jack, from the very first season, this guy that's like, no, I'm in charge and doing the right thing, and I will get everybody off this island. We know that he has this, and he's like, we have to go back because he has this moment with Locke, who's busy with time traveling bunnies. He's gone underground to the So the last time we spoke, I think you were very invested in them leaving the island, and I believe that's the intention of the show. Is like, how are these people going to leave the island? And there are these other things percolating in the background that are island related. By the end of season 4, are you like team leave or team stay? Are you invested in getting off, or is anything drawing you in island wise that you're like, actually, I want to follow what he's up to? He being
I
Locke.
feel like they've opened so many storylines in regards to the island. It's almost too much for me. And I feel like I've got that same feeling that I had 20 years ago watching season 1, where I'm like, are you actually going to close any of these boxes for me? and it's not just about the island. It was like, and we finally saw Walt again, which was great. But like, I'm remembering like early doors when they were like, there was some kind of Walt premonition about him being the best or the worst or a bad seed or something. And I'm like, all these little breadcrumbs.
Yes, yeah.
Where is it leading?
Walt unfortunately had a growth spurt and became very
Walt went through puberty.
And when your
Did
show
they not
was
see
based
that coming?
well, because I think he was 12 at the time. But yes, when you've got a format of flashbacks, it's very hard to go back in time when you're getting bigger. But yeah, I'm just sort of really keen as the mysteries of the island start to, there are more and more layers, and there's been opportunities to learn more about the island, whether that's really kind of drawing you in at all, and Locke's mission. Yeah.
I think I'm still protecting myself emotionally because I'm still fearful that I'm going to really want to know some answers and it's still not going to give me those answers. I think I'm still burnt from the first time around. Whereas like I want to really delve in, like they keep giving us more and more. We've got a new location this season, the Orchid. And now like we've seen the time traveling bunnies and stuff. So they're giving me more and more, but then I think I'm still just burnt from 20 years ago of like, don't really get your heart set on wanting the answer to something just in case they don't give it to you.
Yeah.
I think like Locke joining the others / the hostiles / the whatever we're calling them now. Now, where do I know Richard from in real life? Because I'm getting a vibe like he was on, remember when Will and Grace came out and then they had like Ned and Stacey and then they had all these boy and girl shows. Is he from one of those shows?
It was a girl, a single girl who was suddenly that girl who was suddenly
Susan. That's it. Oh, it's been killing me because I'm on an anti-Googling thing. And I'm like, where do I know those eyelashes from? Suddenly Susan.
Very heavy Latinx accent for his character. I think he had the leather jacket.
Yes. He was either super camp or a womanizer or a bit of both. Yeah. Thank you. I knew it was that period of time. Because obviously we've seen him be in many different time periods looking exactly the same. So that I'm kind of interested in Richard. I am interested. That is a character that's drawn me in because we know we know we've seen him in several different time periods, and also he's the one who sort of got Ben to come like switch sides and so that's grabbed me a bit, but I still think I'm just a little timid on getting my heart set on an answer.
I'll hang in there.
But I did really like that where the camp sort of split off into who wants to leave and who doesn't leave, although some people who wanted to leave have not left, if I can do the maths on my finger and count to 6. Like that 6 just went off and just forgot about, like, what's Bernard's wife's name? It's a
Rose.
flower, isn't it? Is it a Rose? Yeah.
Rose.
Just forgot about Rose. She wanted to go, and there was other people that wanted to go, but they're not going to get to go. And then the whole season, what was throwing me was they kept referring to that Jeremy guy, which I'm like, am I supposed to know who Jeremy Beremy is? And then what a great reveal at the end of the finale, where I was like, I wasn't supposed to know who Jeremy Beremy was because it was Locke.
Yes.
It was
so if they do the best finales in the business, that's for fucking sure.
That is true. I had a couple of had some friends that were watching the show on DVD after it had finished, and they were being the usual, like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's okay. And I feel like one night they rocked up on my doorstep at about midnight because they'd watched the season 4 finale and were like, give me the rest of the DVDs, please. Like, we can't.
You were doling them out season at a time.
Yeah. I will always throw that back in their faces. These two hungry people desperate for more Lost turning up on my doorstep at midnight on a weeknight going, here you go. The first taste is always free.
So question, like, obviously I've made it clear how I feel about Locke. Thumbs down. Is that a standalone feeling? I know you sort of mentioned a little while back that certainly how some people feel. Am I to understand that's not how everybody feels?
I don't think everybody feels that way about Locke. There are plenty of people who say Locke's their favorite character.
Wow.
But yes, there are also plenty of people who are just like, whatever.
Yeah. No, I just find him smug.
And it is hard to say also without getting to the end. So you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the first time viewer. And I think I just always saw him as the doorway to learning about the island. And that always interested me more, right? The sci-fi, the mystery versus the, like, it's thrilling that they escape. But I was always like, oh, the Dharma, that sounds cool. Experiments on animals or what, mystery, what's going on here. So I think that was the ultimate driver.
A lot of people, like, speaking for myself, the moment that really first hooked me was that moment in the 4th episode where you get the flashback. He was in a wheelchair. It's like, wait, what? And there's kind of like this bonding thing of like, this guy gave me the best twist imaginable early on. He's the guy who got me into the show. So I think a lot of people are forgiving of him for that moment.
Yeah, I think it's like if like you said, Chris, if I felt like he was driven more by interest and intrigue, then I would be on that journey with him. But I just feel like he's just more driven by, I already know everything, me and the island. But then he just kept being wrong. Like, at what stage are you going to humble yourself, sir, and just say, I guess, like, come with me and find out what the answer to this mystery is, instead of being like, I am mystery, I am island. Like, you're not, bro. Like,
I'm also just a massive sucker, and his backstory is so sad, and so that also always draws me in. And then to see him on the island full of like confidence from the beginning, where he's like, look, embracing it. We're going to get some boar, and he's throwing knives around and stuff. I guess I like that as well, because I was just very sympathetic to his back. The more we learned about what his life was like pre-island, but I would understand for some people that's not enough to sort of draw anyone in, or
But he wasn't really like, come on, let's go get a boar. He was like, I'm going to go get a boar. And if you're not interested, I might stab you. Like that, there was no joy in that. Like it was more just like, I am Island Man, shut up, dickhead.
I'm so glad we're capturing all of this now. We've still got 2 seasons to go.
I'm happy to eat my words.
Should we shift over to the freighter? The land of there's some, and this sort of brought along some new characters and things,
and some old characters.
Like, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Michael.
yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, so here's what was interesting about that. When they let Michael go, I was convinced, and I don't know if I said it to you guys, but I was convinced they're like, off you go, you will be rescued. And then I figured they were just around the corner and going to snatch him back up again. Like it was one of those like word play, like you may leave the island, but I'm not going to say we're not going to have a big net and bring you back. So then when we saw him on the boat, I was like, I was right. But then they had that cool flashback that like, that's not what happened at all. They literally let him go back home, and he was so racked with guilt that he kept trying to kill himself until he ended up basically agreeing to go on sort of a kamikaze mission, I suppose, if that's not a racially insensitive thing for me to have said.
Yeah, he was man on the inside, not Hercules Mulligan, but
the man on the inside. Yeah, again, because like Ben kept saying there's a man on the inside, and I was like, Ben, you talk a lot. Like, is there really a man on the inside? I didn't think it was going to be Michael. That was super fucking cool. That was really cool. Yeah.
Very good. And what about the others? What about your Kimis or your, leading his, I'm going to run around the island and blow everything up and kill Ben's daughter and just be a general pain in the neck?
Yeah. I've never seen a man who had both a very square head and a very pointy head. Like it was, what a skill. He was scary. That was scary. Killing the daughter, that was a bad bitch move, and that certainly got under Ben's skin. One of the first things we've really seen properly get under Ben's skin. Hey, I was excited when the guy from Blue Heelers turned up. I did text Chris.
Yep, Grant Bowler.
And I was like happy when I found out he wasn't a bad guy, because I was like, he would never, and then he wasn't. So that was fun.
It's funny how much they talk about like the cap. Don't let the captain see you. The captain, or if the captain finds out, and you're thinking, who is this badass? And it's Grant Bowler, and I don't know if he's miscast or anything, because he seems fine. Well, these people were unless they're alluding to Charles Widmore, which I don't think they were. But this is Charles Widmore's I guess big plan to kind of try and get back at Ben and that whole rivalry.
And I think it was another one of those things where it's like Michael's trying to pull the engine apart, but then Grant Bowler was like, well, he's the one pulling the engine apart. It was just another one of those things where it's like everyone just always seems to know what everyone's doing, like ruins the suspense a little bit. But yeah, everyone's so smart. How is everyone so smart? But yeah.
And of course, on the way to the freighter the first time, we did have poor old Desmond go through a very annoying to you time travel situation.
It's really just annoying because I'm not smart enough to understand how time travel works, and then it stresses me out.
So what did you think of that particular episode with him and Penny?
It was stressful. It was really it made me super uncomfortable. And then also when there's too much about time travel, I just disengage mentally and emotionally, because I'm like, I'll just assume this makes sense, but I don't get it. Remember when Inception came out and everyone was obsessed? I didn't see it for years because I'm like, I can't. And I ended up seeing it and someone had to talk me through it really slowly. Great movie. Yeah, look, I loved Desmond. I loved his stories. And I just sort of let myself just go with that, because I'm assuming making sure she's somewhere to answer the phone at some stage. This is all gonna work out. Yeah, I think it was clever.
Do you want to tell her, Chris?
I mean, I've labelled this confession time. So, you've said that you've been on this podcast. You're like, I don't even know what it's called, because we can't give you a lot of information. We just want you to watch the show. But this entire podcast, why it exists, is because on the 20th anniversary, lots of listicles and BuzzFeed articles and opinion pieces and things like that. The Constant, the episode where Desmond is flashing back and forward, is generally considered to be the best episode of
Okay.
the show. Fans absolutely love it. A lot of big think pieces have been written about it, and you know, in IMDb, it's the highest ranked and all of that kind of stuff. Now, our dear friend Dan here, he suggested that it wouldn't even be in the top 10 of his own personal top 10 favorite Lost episodes. And I said, well, Dan, I'm going to need to see that list, that top 10 list. And hence here we are with a podcast where we are recapping the 10 highest episodes of Lost. So when we get to our final episode, will be number 1, which will be The Constant.
Okay.
But at the time, I'm getting Dan's version of his top 10, and of course I've written my own, which does include The Constant because it is a fantastic episode of television. So we didn't think it was a spoiler to say, hey, there was the best episode, because I think it means something to different people, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got their,
like I say, it's not in my top 10. It's perfectly good, but not in my top 10.
So you guys had this conversation before there was any idea of this is what actually caused the podcast to happen. You guys just having a Twitter. Very cool conversation about your top 10 episodes of a 20-year-old show. I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, back around September in America when the 20th anniversary came along. There was a lot of, you know, retrospectives and things like that. So that's what sparked it. And,
I got triggered.
And here we are.
I fully respect that it was definitely clever. I think that there was definitely like an emotional response. It was stressful. The jumping in and out of like, ew, who'd want to be in the army? Like jumping in and out of that, and then getting so close to his beloved, and then it never quite happening. I think I can see why smarter people than me would think that was and I didn't dislike the episode, but I can see why smarter people than me would have really loved it.
Yeah.
So is it your number 1, Chris?
No, we can't spoil.
Well, yeah, we can't spoil. I think what's been happening in this podcast is that our top 10s have been really different, which again is just sort of, you know, testament to the show and how people can get into all sorts of different aspects of it. And I should correct you, Fiona. It's spatio-temporal travel, not time travel, right? Because
Miss Goose.
I want to ask you about Desmond. We also got Faraday has joined the cast. Miles has joined the cast. I have this kind of thing that,
and Claire, don't be sexist.
Charlotte. You get all these new characters in Lost after season 1, and there's this period of time from like season 2 to season 4. Whenever somebody joins, like they not like more often than not, they knock it out of the park and they go for it. They're big characters, Juliet, Ben. I wanted to know your thoughts on like a Faraday who lands and they're like, oh great, you're our knight in shining armor, you're here to rescue us, right? And suddenly he's, you know, doing his very Faraday thing, but they're big performances. How are you going with some of the new cast?
I think that was like a really interesting way of bringing them in, was like showing that they're having reactions to the plane being found and they didn't know why they were having those reactions. Again, I was like, I think that has something to do with time travel, but very cool.
Spatio-temporal.
Yeah, that exactly. Tempora. Yes. That was cool. I mean, I wish Charlotte had made more of an impression on me so I didn't just yell out that her name was Claire.
That's okay. I think that's a common reaction.
Interested, like they've just dropped that tidbit about her wanting to know where she was born. So I'm going to get more from that. Miles seeing ghosts.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Give me more or give me less. That's how I felt about that storyline. Like, give me more or give me less about the ghosts. I love ghosts. Tell me more or don't bother. And then Daniel coming to the island, falling from the sky wearing a tie. Choices.
He's got a look because he's a man of science. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was that. Look, it was another one of those situations where it's like they're lying to me. They're here to save me, but they're not here to save me. And they're like, I mean, we've sung this song before, guys. We've sung this song before. But look, enjoying the characters. They're fine.
Yeah.
we did eventually find out who the Oceanic Six were,
Mm.
and and there was some fun ways which we learned, and so this season opened with. They got away from our usual sort of musical montage intro, and instead we're met with a live car chase, and out comes Hurley, and he's like, wait,
Mm-hmm.
I'm from the Oceanic Six, and then from there we're trying to work out who is who. One of my favorite episodes is GE on, where you learn that Jin is not part, Sun is, but is not part of the Oceanic Six. And look, the freighter's gone boom, so uh,
Mm.
that's where that's at.
That really got me. And I think I texted you that I was counting on my fingers because, like,
Hmm.
Sun's having the baby. She's calling for Jin. You've got this
Yep.
great sort of splice with him rushing to the hospital for the birth of the baby. And I was like, I was so happy because I do love them as a couple. But I think I actually texted you. I'm like, I'm counting on my fingers. I don't think Jin
Yep.
made it, like based on
Yeah.
how I'm counting. And
Mhm.
then obviously it's the reveal that he did not make it. That was a flashback.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really great. That really got me. That really hooked me in and made me incredibly sad. But
Yes.
then I think that leads to Sun becoming a bad bitch. So I'm into that.
She for sure. Yeah, you sent me some great texts over the journey here. Yeah. Is Juliet? You accused Juliet of being toxic at one point, and I was like, okay, I have to rethink this because, some of that gets quite messy, right? Like we're now in a love quadrangle, or it might even be a trapezoid. I'm not sure. At one point, and Kate taking Aaron. She said, "Why is the baby naked? Surely Kate has so many tops that would fit him." And give Desmond a break, fucking Island.
That might have been during that episode. Give him a fucking break.
Yes.
Poor Desmond.
Or Desmond.
Your favorite character, Saeed. I'm assuming
Mm.
whatever is about to happen in this helicopter ruins Saeed's beautiful hair to whatever the fuck he is rocking in these flash forwards.
But surely an assassin would want a nice short dude, not this full blowout that he's rocking. Makes him look like a lion. I don't need it. His hair went from being so glorious on the island, beautiful ringlets, not a hair product to be found, but gorgeous ringlets. And then suddenly he's an assassin, and it's just awful. Ugh. I also got lost it again when I thought the Hobbit came back to life.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? He's a huge loss at the end of season 3, and they're like, "Oh, here you go."
Mm. Yeah, here he is,
There is
surprise. Because Lost just keeps doing that to me. I keep thinking people are dead. It happened again this season. We had this dramatic goodbye to Sawyer. He fully, I was going to say jacked himself, but became the martyr. He did a jack and he dove off the helicopter only to just fucking freestyle it back into the island. Come on. Ziff. I really thought, what a beautiful fitting end to that character. I knew he wasn't part of the Six. Oh,
Yep.
was I not supposed to think he was going to die?
I don't know.
He hugs Kate. He whispers
Yeah,
something
yeah.
inaudible into her ear, but then at the end he says, tell her I said sorry, which I'm assuming is about the baby that he's pretending isn't his, to the woman from Deadwood. And then he flings himself into the ocean. Next minute, he loses his boots and his shirt and just washes back up on the island where Juliet's having some rum. I'm like, just let me mourn someone. Come on.
You can mourn Jin and Michael and whoever
That's
else.
true. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Michael. Who was the guy? Am I dumb? Who's the guy that came and said goodbye to Michael right before he exploded?
That's Jack's dad? Was that Jack's dad?
father? Yes.
Oh,
Yep. And he's in the cabin. He talks to Locke about Jacob and things of that nature.
I'm here to talk on behalf of Jacob. Yeah, I forgot who that was. It's just another great grey-haired white man, but that's okay. Jack's dad, Dr. Shepard Senior. Got it.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
The
I did
father,
mourn Jen.
Claire's father.
Yeah, Claire's father. That was a good reveal.
Via that great accent.
That's got to be the worst accent in the history of time.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
Because, when SNL do an Australian accent, to be funny, it was worse than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very bad.
It ruined that surprising moment. I feel like I kind of knew. Did we already know that he was Claire's
I think we
dad?
did, yeah. We
Yeah,
had
from
plenty of hints.
earlier
Yeah.
when the mum died, didn't he
Yeah.
turn up then? And she was
Yeah.
like, "Who are you?"
Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, "Well, obviously that's your dad," but
Yeah.
okay, I wasn't supposed to really know that until this season because I was like, that wasn't a huge surprise. Just that
This is more
awful.
Jack finding out.
Jack finding out. Okay,
Yes.
fair enough.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a nice bookend of Jack going, great, I'm off the island. I've said goodbye to my father. And then he gets that news and he's like, probably nothing. And then at the end of the season, he's in that bizarre boxcar listening to Nirvana, drunk off his head. He's about to jump off a bridge. And it's Ben that meets him in the funeral parlor. And
Yeah.
and there he is, Jeremy Bentham.
Jeremy Beremy. I think I want to also just acknowledge, and again, 20 years behind the 8 ball on this one, the dude who plays Ben, excellent actor for that character. I don't know what else he's done or where else he's been, but he is absolutely holding this show together because that character is so easy to be too much or a bit wacky or a bit like just generally unbelievable, but he has to play a character that has a level of charisma and creepiness. And somehow he manages to pull that off in such an exceptional way. Like sometimes he looks wild and googly-eyed, sometimes he looks quite normal and almost a little handsome. Like flowers to that man. Like he really is incredible, and really the show hinges on his performance, in my opinion. And I feel like if it was a slightly different actor, I'd be locking him. Like I'd be like, this guy. But something about the way he's pulling it off, I'm
Michael Emerson.
Every scene he's in, I love.
Yeah. No, you're not alone there.
Yeah. He won a Golden Globe for this role. I think it was either for this season or the next one, without spoiling anything.
Not possible. Pretty sure I just watched him die. So I don't know what you're talking about.
So, and he's the only one. Like he receives consistent nominations for those. Once he's a regular member of the cast, and so does Terry O'Quinn for John Locke as well. But he won some. I think he won an Emmy. But yeah, Michael Emerson ends up being probably the most prestigiously awarded of the of the cast. Yeah,
Incredible. No, really incredible.
So off to season 5.
Yeah. I'll give it a squeeze.
I mean, you've still got the choice, Fiona. You'd still, if you want to chuck this whole thing in the bin and say, you know what, I'm good. Is there something like what is it? What are you most looking for in season 5? What do you need to see? What is it? Is it more beach surgeries? Blood transfusions with bamboo? What are you looking forward to in season 5? What do you need answered to give you some closure?
I definitely need less of Jack's really poor medical procedures, that's for sure. I can't believe we got another CPR from him this season, another hideous raft-related CPR that somehow saved Desmond's life. But was happy, didn't want to lose Desmond, wasn't ready, won't be ready. Okay, so I'm definitely excited to find out a little bit more about Richard and what he meant when he said to Locke, welcome home. What does that mean? Please give me answers. I really want to hear more about that. I mean, desperately, I want to know what the fuck is going on the island. Please tell me, what is the Dharma Initiative? What are they doing and why? But I can't lie. I'm really also really enjoying what's happening off the island. Like, why do they all have to get back together and come back? Everybody has to come back, including baby Aaron, including a corpse. Like, what does that mean? Who did Locke in? How did Locke die? Who got the smug bastard? Like, how, I'm fully hooked in. And I think I know you and I were talking about this recently. Like, I think what's interesting for me watching Lost with no ability to Google things, it's helping me sort of go with the flow a little bit more. Because usually when I'm watching a show, I'm obsessively checking Reddit. I'm delving deep. I want to know why the Khaleesi wore that particular braid in that side of her head. Like, I think normally, when I watch shows, and I'm talking whatever, I'm talking Drag Race, I'm talking whatever I'm watching, I am the guy who then goes immediately on the internet to find out what everybody else is thinking. Do they think what I think? Why did they think that? And I think that is something that I'm missing with this show, that is such a water cooler show. Like 20 years ago, I would have been having these conversations face to face. Nowadays, I would have a wealth of internet to go back and look on, but I'm being a strong and brave girl, just occasionally Googling you, where do I know this guy from? Thank you. I did think it was Blue Healers. So I don't know. I'm genuinely just looking forward to, it answering one question and giving me 5 more questions. Like that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Well, we wish you luck. You've raised some good questions there, and I actually think you might get some answers. So, we'll let you get stuck in, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you for having me on your show.
All right, out you go. There goes Fee out of the chopper.
Bye.
Yep, see ya.
I think that brings us to top 10 time. Like this is time to rip off the Band-Aid and see. Only 5 to go.
Yeah, well, but before we get to our number 5s, was this? I think you can guess from my initial reaction. This one isn't in my top 10. Is it in your top 10?
Not for me, Dan. Not for me. No. So it leaves it wide open. Although I like I said earlier, there's a couple of episodes that could be in that number 5 slot for you. But I'm keen, and I'm also nervous.
My number 5, then the 5th best Lost episode, according to me, is The Man from Tallahassee, which is in season 3. Okay. So do you want me to do the recap of this one from my blog?
Yeah, give us the yes. Yep.
Because that'll remind us what's going on. Saeed, Kate and Locke break into the Others compound to rescue the Doc from a horrific existence as a tight end in the annual Others Touch football tournament. Perhaps not surprisingly, the rescue bid is a Charlie-esque shambles, with Kate and Saeed immediately captured and Locke flaking out for a wheelchair comparison or flashback in session with Ben. Turns out Locke was originally crippled because his father threw him out of an 8th-story window. Ouch. Talk about not sparing the rod. Ben goes on to claim that there's a box on the island that makes wishes come true. Locke responds as you or I would to this revelation, namely by blowing up a submarine. But Ben can even top that crazy behaviour. He wishes Locke's over-disciplining dad into captivity in a room in the back of the compound. Take that, laws of plausibility. So there you go.
Right. So you've put me right in the place of season 3. Yep. Locke's father is it the magic box has brought him.
Yeah. So the big cliffhanger of that one is that Locke Ben has something to show him. Locke opens the door and he's just like, Dad? And you see that he's there. It's like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here? So lots of great things I loved about this one. We get the big mystery of Locke's paralysis. That's finally answered.
Mm-hmm.
But we do get some new mysteries thrown in there in classic Lost fashion. We get, does Ben really have a literal magic wishing box?
Yes.
He would later explain that was a metaphor. But at the time, it was just like, wait, what can Ben do? So yeah, it was it was all very interesting.
What I love about that, and I know it's sort of revealed in it's in the next or the later episode, but Anthony Cooper's like, I was driving down the freeway, then suddenly, boom, everything goes black. So he's like, I'm in hell. Of course I'm in hell. I've been such a bad person. This is hell. Because his experience is he goes blank and then suddenly he's on an island somewhere and he's like, there's his son walking around and all this kind of stuff. So it makes sense, but they are able to mess around with us, the viewer, going, well, how the hell did they do this? But very practical for them to just leave the island and go and steal someone, right? Yeah. They could do that anytime they want.
I'm sure Richard just, drugged him and just dragged him over there. He does that all the time.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing I love about this episode, I like the kind of ever-changing alliances and relationships between the characters. So it starts off with Locke, Saeed, and Kate on this big mission. They've seen Jack spiking the footballs. It's like, wait a sec, we're coming to rescue you. And Jack's already rescued himself. He's got a plan to get off the submarine. And then Locke gets distracted by Ben, and then Ben tricks Locke into blowing up the submarine, and Juliet's trying to get off onto the submarine as well. I just love all these plans. Everybody's shifting and they're, kind of renegotiating their positions. And then, of course, the brilliant twist at the end with Anthony Cooper being on the island, inexplicably on the island. Brilliant. I loved it.
it's the one-upsmanship, right? Like it's one of my favorite things in this entire show between Ben and Locke. Ben's like what post-surgery and
Yeah.
some of the, so he's weakened.
And Locke's lording it all over him. Locke's saying,
Yes, yeah.
I know that you're no good because you haven't
Hmm.
recovered from this. I recovered the instant I showed up. He's basically just,
Yep. Yeah, and here you
you're not as
are.
worthy as I am.
Yeah, yeah. And then well, Ben's got to one up the guy and go,
Yeah.
I'm going to go and steal your father and put him in and, and just make it about Jacob and these
Yeah.
other things. And yeah, so any episode that's got some really good, juicy Locke and Ben, battling it out. I mean,
Yeah.
that's sort of the heart of the show for me. I've sort of said that before. That's yeah, what a great episode.
But I assume it's not your number 5.
It's not, and I don't want to move on too quickly. If there's anything else you want to kind of touch on here, otherwise,
No, I think I've said most of the things I want to say about this particular one.
Yep.
Just great. If I said the Richard Alpert one was average lost, this to me is kind of just lost firing on all cylinders. It's just like
yeah, okay,
all kinds of just pure lost. It's just you got the perfect flashback. You've got the what happened to Locke. You're answering questions, and then on the island stuff is just delicious. Just all these interactions and mind games and sorting one another out. Yeah, perfect lost. Perfect example of lost.
you must have been a happy boy, right? The man from Tallahassee into expose.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love the back half of season 3. It's a great run.
Big big couple of weeks for you. So my number 5, no, and the man from Tallahassee is not in my top 10. So phew, sigh of relief there. I was a
Yep.
little bit nervous. So no, number 5 for me, and this was really, really tough, like where this landed in the list. But number 5, season 3, episode 10, Trisha Tanaka is dead.
Okay.
This is the funniest episode of Lost. It's absolutely fan, and it's also some of my favorite stuff. It's Hurley, Charlie, Jin, and Sawyer working on a car, drinking beers,
Yep.
connecting. You've got some great character moments, and like I love this because like yeah, Charlie's kind of been a bit insufferable at this point, right? Up until this point, and Hurley, like he opens the episode, he's talking to Libby's grave, and he's like, just this almost all this shit is happening. It's sad. I hate it here, basically. And then there's just this story of like for him finding hope, turning it around. He's able to do that for Charlie, and it's this. I think quite a nice story, like
Yeah.
the backstory. We get the introduction of his dad, Cheech Marin, in this horrific wig, and and that connection around the car, and then just have it. So it's like, yeah, it's a little bit naff. I think the whole like you just got to have faith and getting the car started. But for me, it's just kind of like the hangout, and it's like one of the last times this show has the time to
Yep.
just let some characters kind of chill out and sort of
Yeah.
shoot the shit and have some fun. Yeah, so yeah, you've got Sawyer and Jin drinking beers, Hurley and Charlie, working on their relationship.
Roger Workman.
Yeah, Roger Workman, Vincent, they're just cruising around the island. They've got Shambhala playing
Yep.
on the radio. And it's just lovely stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really, really like it. As I said, it's the funniest episode, like by a mile. Hurley running into the camp and screaming like and just going like, hey, when he finds the thing, he's like, hey, 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 and you hear Paula go, what is it, the others? It's like one of the worst deliveries of the entire series. Like, no, it's a van. Sawyer talking about Little House on the Prairie.
That's right. Little House. Yeah.
Yes, he calls Charlie Oliver Twist, Munchkin, and Jiminy Cricket all in the same episode. And then Hurley tells Charlie that like he's so stressed about Desmond telling him that he's going to die, and he's like, yeah, he's probably right. But hey, you know what? That's fine. He's like, it's actually my fault. Death follows me everywhere. Cue Vincent and an arm from a corpse
Yeah.
coming through the jungle. So I love all of that stuff. Sawyer has literally just returned from this entire ordeal on the other
Yes.
side of the island, and he's just wandering, stomping around, demanding that he gets all of his shit back. Calls Hurley Snuffy. And then when Jin is like sees him and they're all like, "Oh, dude, welcome back." You know,
Yeah.
Jin speaks some English and Sawyer says, "Oh, hooked on phonics." So it's some of the best interplay of the whole thing. Sawyer also finds the plans to the dig site,
Mhm.
which is this, thinking back now, really cruel kind of foreshadowing, I guess. Like he would ultimately, that's where the dig site for the Swan,
Yeah.
where Juliet would ultimately, meet
Yep.
her demise, and what's this head doing back here? And then when Hurley just slaps Hurley finally standing up to Sawyer when he calls him Jumbotron, and he says, "Shut up, redneck man."
Yeah.
And Sawyer's about half a dozen beers deep, so he's like, "Touche." I like,
Yeah.
yeah, such a fun episode.
It is a very
Sorry,
fun
Ram.
episode, and it's a kind of as much as you say it's kind of a hangout episode. It does also, and didn't realize this at the time, but it does come back. Like Hurley, when he comes to the rescue in the finale, he comes to the rescue in that
Yeah.
van, and
Yep.
that just kind of made my heart sing in that finale. It was just like, oh
Hmm.
my god, that's the van Hurley, because we thought Hurley had been left behind. Nah, here he is. He's
Yeah.
in the van that
Yep.
he had this great episode in. So yeah, I'm on board with Trisha Tanaka. Doesn't make my top 10, but but yeah, it's a really good episode. Yeah.
I can give you more. Like I reckon I can convince you to get it in, just to sneak it in, because you've got Trisha Tanaka dying via meteorite
Mm,
or asteroid. We don't know which
yeah.
one's which. Played by Sung Hai Lee, who was in the Mortal Kombat TV series, just to go full Lost on everyone. I love that they have, when Hurley and the family have all the money, they've hired personal chefs, the Trons, and they say that they got them from Bennigan's, and I was like, "What's Bennigan's?" So I had to go and look it up. Bennigan's is it's like an Irish pub chain in
Right.
America. And if you go on their website, they have a YouTube video that says Bennigan's as seen on, and you're like, "Oh, it's because they got the shout out on Lost." But no, it's about there's some terrible rom-com where all these scenes happen in Bennigan's. It almost
Yeah.
looks like some kind of pay placement thing. So,
Yeah.
not a shout out to Lost, but again, another rabbit hole I went down. They're having lasagna and burgers for dinner because
Mm,
Hurley, personal chefs. And when Hurley argues with his mother, and she says, "Your father is staying with us," and he says, "Where?" And then she goes, "It's been 17 years, Hugo." And he's like, "What's been 17 years?" She she covers the ears of baby Jesus,
yes. Yeah.
and she says, "I have needs." Hilarious. And then that just the best and most subtle joke of all of them is in the next morning when his dad wakes him up in bed and he's got headphones on,
Yeah.
and he's like,
Yeah.
what's the headphones? And he's like, "It's for the noise." He says, "Well, your mother is a very passionate woman."
Yes. Yeah.
So everything about this episode, I just think it's a great little story. I love Hurley, and I think it's the funniest one.
Yep.
That's it for
Fair
me.
call. Yeah, it's certainly right up there. You've laid your case out very nicely. I'm struggling to think of any funnier thing off the top of my head. I mean, I do enjoy the black comedy of Expose, but
Yes.
this is this is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's why I couldn't put an expose in when like many of the other episodes you're getting at finales and these
Mm.
big sort of moments, and this, I was like, I need to get this very kind of hangout sort of pared back
Yeah.
episode in here as well. So yeah, it's either that or what is it, season 5, something like it Hoth.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
probably another good one.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
similar vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. So is that's it for this week, right? Like
I
we've
think it
got our
is. Yep.
yep,
So we
we've
move into number 4 on the countdown next week.
yes, and what is number 4, Dan, on the
Number
list?
4 is the 3-part season finale of the first season of Lost. So it's Exodus part 1, 2, and 3. So episode 23, 24, and 25. I think most of the time 24 and 25 are combined in a double length episode, but
Mm,
regardless, the last 3-hour length episodes minus
yep.
ads.
So we'll be going all the way back to season 1.
Yep, they get on a raft and off they go.
Yes. All right. Well, that'll be it for this week, and we'll say goodbye. Cue the outro. Thank you for listening to Lost Within Lost. If you have any feedback on anything you've heard in this episode, or even if you just want to share some of your own favourite Lost memories, you can send us a note via email or pneumatic tube, if that happens to be working. Just send it to lostwithinlostpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on the socials, both Twitter or X, whatever you prefer. Also on Blue Sky, at Lost Within Lost. Come and say hello, and thanks for listening.